Kevin and I have been working on for several months, and anxious to kind of introduce this to the community. I'm Peter Austin. I'm the McHenry County Administrator. With me is Kevin Bueso, McHenry County's Chief Financial Officer, and we want to talk with you today about what we've called Advanced McHenry County, and I think it has the opportunity to really make an impact in the community, and that's what your county board is really challenging us to do. Today we have packets for you, but they're sitting in our office. So we are gonna pass around a sign-up sheet with your email, so we'll be sending those out later. We'll also put this presentation on our website. If you haven't checked out the website, I encourage you to do so. There's a lot of information there, but check back frequently because we're going to be putting more and more information up. In particular, the frequently asked questions. It's going to be kind of a live document, so we're going to be continuing as we're getting questions in. We're going to be putting them back up there. You see the agenda today, and pretty straightforward. We're going to give you a little background on the American Rescue Plan and some of the funding opportunities, and hopefully get some good questions from you after that. All right, next slide, Kev. That one, yeah, American Rescue Plan and ARPA, and then the coronavirus local fiscal recovery plans. These two terms, I even am guilty of kind of interchanging them, but I want to make a distinction between the two on the next slide so we kind of have that foundational understanding. So go to the next slide. We've been in this pandemic for so long that we're now kind of on our second iteration of giant federal allocations. The first allocation was in the spring of 20 under the Donald Trump administration. That was the CARES allocation, and that was $2.1 trillion. That was the first one. What we're talking about now with the American Rescue Plan is that second rescue allocation, and that's the ARPA mark, or the American Rescue Plan dollars, and that was 1.9 trillion. That came very early in 2021. But from that 1.9 trillion, we go into the 3.5 billion. That's the coronavirus state and local recovery funds. Those are the dollars we're talking about today. Those are the dollars that we're allocating. So out of that 3.5 trillion, we get a direct allocation in McHenry County of 59 point, almost 60 million. So next slide, Kevin. The rescue plan has eligible uses. It's not just use it whatever you want kind of thing. But some of these uses are a little bit more flexible than others, and some are very clear. Support for public health response is very clear. Water sewer infrastructure is very clear. But things like addressing negative economic impacts kind of feels like it's a little bit more of a catch-all. But if your project can fit into a negative economic impact, maybe it fits a little bit better. So those are some of the things that we want to point out on this slide. The other real important points we want to make are the deadlines. We have 3 years, really, to make decisions on how these dollars are going to be used. A little more than 3 years. Those dollars have to be allocated by the close of 24. In McHenry County, we've worked rapidly to try and get us to this point where we can open up opportunities and get ideas. That's really what we want to get, is ideas on how to make these investments. But now that we're here, we want to be thoughtful about how we're allocating the dollars. So that's really a strong point. We've hurried to get here. Now we're going to collect the ideas, and then we're going to be thoughtful about how we make these allocations. We've got 3 years. The county board has 3 years to make decisions on how to make these investments. All the dollars have to then be spent by the close of 26. So that's the time frame. 3 years to get obligated, 5 years to get spent.
Just a quick note, one of the frequently asked questions that we get is, what is the deadline for some of the application process that we're seeing? And as Pete mentioned, we got time, so we want organizations to be thoughtful and very comprehensive on what they submit, so it's not so much as a rush to beat the deadline. is more about the projects that you submit, to keep in mind these deadlines. So again, when we're looking at the eligibility and we're looking at classifying and organizing and recommending projects, we're not necessarily thinking about which project got submitted first, but more how does it align with all the different requirements of the American Rescue Plan Act.
Thanks, good point. So, let's talk a little bit about the local dollars, the ARPA dollars that have come to McHenry County already, or in the federal rescue dollars. As I noted earlier, McHenry County directly allocated $59.78 million. That's our responsibility at the county, to make decisions on how those are used. But there's a lot of other monies that have already come into McHenry County. Cities and villages receive $38 million. The school districts, $34 million, to help them meet their response. So there's a lot of dollars there. But I use the word responsibility because, and that's really where your county board is at. They want to be thoughtful about how we're making these allocation decisions and impactful. And they, unlike very few local governments that Kevin and I talk with a lot of our peers, this county board is really making a commitment to getting the dollars into the community, rather than figuring out as many ways as they can to keep the dollars for McHenry County government. They've said to us since the beginning, not fewer than half the dollars need to go out into the community. So, and we hopefully it'll be more than that. But that's what we're talking about today is that first tranche of money to get out into the community. Next slide. I like this slide. This is our mission statement. We didn't get this mission statement from Congress or from the Biden administration. This is something that we developed. It's our mission statement, but we really want this to be your ideas that come through this process to figure out how to best use these monies. But what I like about this statement is it's using words that you see in there like invest and inclusive, long-term benefits, transformation, transformative, those kinds of words. Those are the kinds of words that are going to guide us in our decision. You don't see the word there is plug a hole or Band-Aid. That's not what we want to do. The county board has been very clear that they want us to make impactful investments in the future. And there's nothing wrong with plugging holes and Band-Aids, but there's a lot of other federal dollars and a lot of other programs that have been with us now for 18 months to do those kinds of hole plugging and Band-Aids. But we want these dollars to really be investments in the future, investments in the community, and kind of this once in a career opportunity in many respects. So I appreciate this slide, and I want you to think about that a little bit. This slide is a little bit about our program in particular, our Advanced McHenry County program. But there's seven broad programs, and I wanted to, in this third bullet point, the project category is anticipated to shift, and it's important for us. We're starting out with what we think are, proposed allocations to each one of these categories, but we're prepared to respond. And if we're flooded with applications in one category and they're not so much in another category, we're going to recognize and we're going to make some shifts in the allocations there. This is a starting point. Since the announcement of the American Rescue Program and then the allocation that McHenry County received, nearly $60 million, our office has received 115 million ideas, if you will, and unsolicited ideas on how to spend those money. But that was helpful. It was helpful for Kevin and I, and we're working with a third-party consultant group called the Bronner Group, and we'll talk more about them in a moment. But it was helpful for Kevin and I and the Bronner Group to begin to figure out how to make these broad allocations in these program buckets, and we kind of used, in some parts, the initial ideas that we got from the community. These unsolicited ideas that we got from the community helped us kind of divide up how we were going to spend the initial, or look at how the initial allocations come in. All right. This might be the most important slide. And this is, we talked about 7 buckets, And that's what they're here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And today we're really talking about just you know, the top 2. That's kind of what this program is intended for. But the first half, this phase 1, if you will, that's what we're introducing today, and that's access to that initial 29 million plus, right? And we've kind of set it up this way. Phase 1 is the dollars that we are committing to getting out into the community. Phase 2, some of those dollars will go into the community as well, but we're holding back on that, seeing how you know, activity and interest comes in at phase 1, seeing how fast it feels like we're making good investments, and so we're going to play wait and see. Some of phase 2 is going to help with some county projects that we have on. We know that. You know, our health department is down here at the bottom. There's a good chunk of money circled for the McHenry County Health Department. They've been doing the yeoman's effort for the last 19 months, and we need to really think about what does public health look like. That's what Congress is asking us to do. That's why they put some of this money out there. They're asking us to think about what does public health look like on the other side. So we've kind of put a little fence around some of those monies to work on that. We have a study going on with the health department right now to kind of think about what does public health look like in 24 and 25 and get us there. But again, today, right now, we're introducing the phase 1 applications, and really the not-for-profits and other governments is kind of what we're talking about here at the top.
Just one quick note here is that on the county website, you'll see that there's only one application. So getting probably into a little bit too much into the weeds here, but there's one application where you'll be able to, you know, the recipients or applicants can view and compare to these different buckets and see which one it qualifies for. So you will not see different links for different applications depending on what bucket we're talking about. So that's just one point of clarification. We'll go into a little bit more detail after the presentation here. But
and, you know, Kevin and I are going to kind of transition. He's going to be kind of the lead now, as we're going to get a little bit more technical, and he's a little bit closer to the technical parts of this. But you know, on our next slide, we begin to talk about eligible activities, and you know, there's some of the broad categories here. Kevin, is there any particular points you want to hit? There's the next 3 slides are kind of a lot of text, and we don't want to go through all of them. But
yeah, the only thing here is that these come straight from the U.S. Treasury website and guidance and reporting that they have released, which is not final yet, but you know, this is kind of the process where we are. There are some areas here that they're highlighting, and I want to make sure that we clarify that some of these categories, for example, revenue losses, public health, and some of these items, not-for-profits, and other governments don't qualify for some of these. So you may see, because we're using the one application, you may see these options under your when you're submitting the application. But some of these, to keep in mind, non-for-profits and especially governments don't qualify for that because you know there's no public health, there's no revenue losses that we're trying to cover. We were very intentional about the name of the program with Advanced McHenry County. We were going beyond what
prospective,
pandemic.
Yep. Moving forward, right?
So just
I think you're kind of close the rest of the way here.
So when we're talking about what's eligible for some of these for some of these grants, so we're talking about these categories that come strictly directly from the U.S. Treasury. So the first bullet point about the public health on the second bullet point, sort of middle of the slide, when we're talking about public health, so that's more for the health department at the county level. So when you're looking at the applications, focus more on the negative economic impact to the community. That would be one. Services to impacted groups within the county. That would be another one. Infrastructure, premium pay and replacement, and revenue replacement. These are some of the categories that non-for-profits and other special governments or special districts that did not receive an allocation don't qualify. And that's not the county saying, it's the U.S. Treasury making that determination and saying, we're not making these grants available for premium pay within organizations. So if it's something that qualifies, it will be at the county level. So just wanted to clarify that on this slide. community engagement and kind of this is what we're doing right now. As part of this program, we are going to have the applicants or recipients, once their projects are reviewed and approved, we're gonna have them sign an agreement or an IGA with the county indicating, you know, how does your organization engage with the community, what kind of feedback you're getting, and that way we can incorporate that within our own county engagement and community engagement. What we're doing today is one of the steps of, as far as community engagement. We're coming out to the community and presenting what the plan is. So second, probably most important slide in the presentation is going to be the eligibility criteria. And we're not going to go through each one of them, but what we wanted to highlight is that each project that gets submitted will go through these evaluation criteria by our, it'll start at the consultant level. When you submit the application, they are going to be the first sort of review.
It's important, we have a third party that's gonna be the initial recipient.
Right.
And they're gonna run it through this criteria score sheet. And these aren't our criteria really. I mean,
Right.
These are the things that Congress and the US Treasury has asked us to look at when making these allocations.
So we're aligning the application against these criteria. The criteria itself has been aligned with the U.S. Treasury requirements, and so when we're talking about, you know, a response getting back to the applicants on, you know, why an application was in review or what the scoring is, this will be part of that and what the analysis that went behind that. So just something to keep in mind as you go through the application process. This is, again, second probably most important slide in this presentation. What are the reporting requirements? So as I mentioned, part of this process will be once the applications are reviewed, once the application has been approved, the recipients will receive an IGA, so an intergovernmental agreement. They will sort of give you the guidelines of what kind of reporting back to the county, what kind of reporting is required, and what the deadlines are. So again, these are deadlines that the U.S. Treasury has put out for counties such as McHenry County. These are changing. I think just 2 weeks ago or a week ago there was a change to these deadlines, but there will be that reporting back to the county. There will be a requirement, and we will provide the methods and channels for us to get those reports back.
I know you guys, I'm sure some of your groups have received federal monies in the past, so you're familiar with you know, some of the reporting requirements, and nobody likes paperwork. But I am glad that there's going to be some good oversight on the utilization of these dollars, and that there is going to be a little bit of another set of eyes just to protect these public monies, make sure that they are invested well.
And the U.S. Treasury is having recipients and sub-recipients put some of this information on the website, so that there is that component of transparency and where the funds are going. So again, that will be part of the reporting requirement. So that's pretty much all we have on the presentation. I do want to go into the website and kind of just guide you through the application process.
Some of you checked out the website? Good. Good. Encourage you to check back.
Are there any questions on this before I jump on the website that we can address?
Yes.
With the reporting, you had mentioned the sub-grantee, you know, the third party they were gonna, is the reporting going to them or to the county?
It's coming to the county.
Okay.
So the question, do we need to repeat that for the video? The question is the reporting for the sub-grantees come back to the county or the federal government?
Yeah, so that report gets collected through the same neighborly application that you originally submitted it through. So there will be a attached document feature in there. The recipients can attach those documents, the county will review them, and will make them as part of the total American Rescue Plan allocation that the county has.
So I'm most interested in the wastewater and stormwater infrastructure because I thought this is a way for us to implement projects in watershed-based plans that we have throughout the county. And I've tried to dig in, what I need is to understand what qualifies under that. And so, like I saw in the Federal Register, it's projects that would qualify under drinking water revolving funds and clean water revolving funds, but I'm really looking for more detail of what qualifies under that stormwater infrastructure.
Well, you know, the county doesn't run water wastewater system like some larger counties do, but our municipalities do. And so they have a lot of flexibility in how they use those. And then remember, our municipalities do get some of their own allocations, so I think that's part of it. But I think there are other instances where they are looking for some creativity, and I think that's kind of where you're thinking. You're raising a good point. It's a point we want to make sure you don't leave the room. I don't think it's a bad idea to submit some ideas that you're not sure about. And the reason is we're spending a good chunk of money with a third party to help us sort through these things. And there will be instances, and we're going to try and make these a lot, where a good idea comes to us and we say, that's a good idea, but we don't need to spend our $59 million on it because there's all these other billions of dollars out there and in other programs. And I know that there's a lot of federal monies out there for water and wastewater treatment. And you know, with the new infrastructure bill, there's going to be even more. So that's part of what we're wanting to do with this community engagement is get those ideas going.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, because I'm really thinking more like green infrastructure projects that are in our plans that may be a project in unincorporated McHenry County. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks. Sorry about the voice. With the trying to understand the overall approval process, is it rolling? So will there be a date that we have to submit? I don't know, because it goes a few years out. Is there a date we submit by? Do we look at all the pool of the applicants, or is it individual? How does that?
I think the word rolling is probably more descriptive.
Okay.
We are going to begin looking at applications on December 1st. I don't know how many we're going to have, and I don't know how many are going to be like, oh my God, these are just must-do home runs, or we're going to want to wait and see how things begin. Of course, we're going to have the holidays there and everything. I would not anticipate anything happening, any allocations until January. And every allocation will be bundled. Maybe there's 6 that come before the county board in January. Maybe there's 7. Maybe there's 2. I don't know. But it's going to be kind of rolling thereafter. And we're going to have to work with our consultants and see how robust the applications are and kind of play wait and see. We haven't done this before. We're going to learn as we're going along.
And sorry, just to kind of quickly add to that, so what we have communicated to the board has been that every month, basically over the next few months, we can have a broader group review the applications, and then bring some recommendations and say, you know, these are some of the projects that align with how the American Rescue Plan dollars are supposed to be spent and invested in the community. And then the board will have the sort of approval on those projects, and then we'll be doing that on a rolling basis, basically throughout the next few years as far as projects go.
And there could be instances where we want to say, yeah, your project looks good, but let's make sure we don't exhaust
Right.
looking at some of these other buckets, and that could take another 30, 60 days.
You mentioned submitting many ideas, and can an organization be approved for multiple projects?
I don't think we have a rule that doesn't say that.
No.
We can't.
We actually have that listed under frequently asked questions, and so one community can submit for infrastructure projects, you know, some of the educational programs, maybe some of the different other programs that we have in the not-for-profit work. There can be partnerships among different not-for-profits as well, and you know, again, it's just all ideas are welcome. Some of them, like we talked about, they'll be scored based on the eligibility requirements, and then we're going to come back with recommendations. Sometimes the recommendation might be there's $1 billion for social programs out there. We're going to see if we can align that with that programs throughout the county. So some of those responses could be based on those.
And sometimes we're going to have to resist the easy
Right.
The 59 million is easy, because that,
Correct.
we're kind of controlling that. But there's so many other buckets out there, and broadband is a great example, right? There's broadband all over this
Right.
bill. The county has a genuine interest in expanding broadband, particularly in the western half of the county, and improving service out there, and I think that will happen. The easy way to do it is use our 59 million, but that wouldn't be the best use of that 59 million, I don't think, because there's so many other opportunities to work with that.
Thanks. Are the city allotments that you mentioned on the opening slides, are those being driven through the county in terms of awards, or are those going through the municipalities?
They went through the state to the municipality.
So, okay. Is there a list of those? Do you by chance have a list that shows what cities been awarded?
On the
Smaller
US,
ones.
on the US Treasury website there is.
They were smaller amounts, I believe. Crystal Lake had the largest allocation, as you would guess, and it was in the 4 millions.
Right.
Yeah. And because those numbers are smaller, well, you know this, in Woodstock, you're using it for local projects.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, so.
Any other questions before Kevin goes live on the application? All right.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about the reporting aspect, I don't know, I hope I didn't miss it, and I'm asking a repeated question, but are the funds an upfront award, or is it a reimbursement process?
So it's a reimbursable process with the understanding that there might be some projects and organizations that will require upfront costs to be put out there. So those will be analyzed on a case-by-case basis, but in general, it will be on a reimbursement basis.
Thank
But
you.
that's a great question.
Can we keep asking questions?
We love the questions.
I'm
That's
gonna
why
call
we're
it
here.
tonight then. On the middle slide, the premium, it was premium pay.
Okay, yep.
Can you just explain just the focus on that? Is premium
Yeah,
pay for
you're,
essential workers?
I don't think it's really relevant to much of the folks in this room, but premium pay is, paying people at long-term care centers to come in and work. People in the health profession have had to work in stressful environments like COVID. I think that's really what they're looking for.
Okay, that applies to some nonprofits. All right, thank you.
Yeah, the only clarification there is that per U.S. Treasury guidelines, we cannot cover premium pay for not-for-profits and other. So it's premium pay for those direct recipients. So that's why we talk about that would be, even though it's an option in the application process, that's more for the departments within the county. If that were to happen, but we have received very, very clear guidance on what's going to happen. How do we look at that category?
Yeah.
So nonprofits historically are way underpaid, and they were staff that were working as essential workers all through the pandemic. They were the first ones that got calls, the first, I'll use an example, Adult Protective Services. We're going out into the homes to make sure that people were safe. So this premium pay, I'm sure we would never get to premium, but even if we could bump salaries up to cover some of the at-risk staff that we had to put out there, is that something that could be covered?
I don't think so. Perhaps there's a way you could make it work, but that's not the way I don't think that the county board is focused. Again, we're going to use the word prospective, looking forward. Premium pay as it's related to the coronavirus has most often been associated in the past when even particularly before the vaccines and where people could not do their job, even though they while many of us were able to work at home, and there was people that just simply couldn't and put themselves in harm's way and provided service.
So premium pay is more like Pete said, not repeating that, but it's just looking back period. So in the middle of the pandemic, you have people that had to come to work, and you're reporting that as part of going, reviewing what happened in April, May of 2020, and reporting that to the U.S. Treasury is more for the direct recipients to do that, not necessarily for the sub-recipients, in which case it would be the case for non-for-profits and the special taxing districts. I don't know if that answers your question or.
So basically what you're saying for nonprofits is this is going forward.
I think we'd like to look forward, yes. We want to talk about impacts in the future, making investments in the future. And again, I'm not discounting some of the tough times that have been, but we're not trying to patch old, put on Band-Aids over old things or plug holes that were happening in the past. We want to look forward. And we're trying to program about things that that maybe need a little kickstart, something. But we'd like your applications are going to score higher if they can demonstrate that the program that you are applying for can survive 2, 3, 4 years from now without these dollars. And if we're just going to, I don't know exactly how you're imagining premium pay, but it feels like that would be kind of a shorter term remedy. Okay.
Can the projects be multi-year?
Yes.
Yep. So that's encouraged. You'll see that on the application. All right. So I'm going to go to the county website, and the Advanced McHenry County page is. If you just go to the county website, you can find it by going over to the county government, and then you'll see the second link here saying Advanced McHenry County, and that will take you to the website. So the first thing is we got the mission statement for the plan here. We got the application link. And then if you keep scrolling down, you'll see all the different resources. So again, the presentation that we're talking about right now, we'll send in an email, but it'll also be available for downloading here under McHenry County resources. There will also be a recording of it, what we're doing here. It'll be posted on the website, but you'll see everything related to these funds from guidance from the U.S. Treasury. You'll see that as well in a hyperlink here. Plus, you'll see any kind of other events, and you'll see the frequently asked questions as well. This takes you to a live document that we're updating as we go, and basically every 5 minutes you'll see any new questions that we post. They'll be available there for everybody to get access to. So again, that's sort of a quick tour of the Advanced McHenry County website. We will update this dashboard here with a little bit more information about how the program is being allocated, what expenses, what actual payouts have been done. That will also be posted here. So
we're really relying on the website to be our transparency portal. So we're holding ourselves accountable to make sure these dollars get spent in the right way.
So now we're going to get into the application itself. So once you click on it, we are using Neighborly software as the portal for this. And what you'll see is that it'll take you to it will say community development because they have years and years of experience and they've used Neighborly before. So we're using their portal to manage the application process.
And the community development department has been integral in helping us get federal rental and utility assistance dollars out throughout the pandemic, so it was a good fit.
So the first thing you'll need to do is, as an applicant, you'll need to register. So once you register, you'll get an email with a link to confirm your account, and then you can, let's see if this is gonna work here, should. So once you have registered, it'll take you to the application portal. And in here, if you don't have any applications started, what will happen is you'll be taken to this list. And so Advanced McHenry County is the first one. And all you need to do is just click on Start a New Application. And again, so here you can add any information as far as how you want to identify this application for you. So in this case, I'm just going to do test. And then it will take you to the actual application and kind of what the different sections of that application is. So I'm just gonna go through these real quick and kind of highlight some of the areas that we're getting a lot of frequently asked questions. Yes?
Before you get a little farther, if you don't mind, if I can just interject, we used this software before through McHenry County, so would we use our initial login, or do we have to start a new one?
No, you can use the same existing account. If you have applied for any CDBG program before, that information should be saved, and you can start. The only thing is you'll see the listing of applications, so all the applications that you have submitted. So, yep.
Thank you.
And instead of going through these, I'm just gonna go back to my original list so that I don't have to worry too much about you can disregard that. So again, as soon as you log on that application, you'll see it on your list. But so as you complete these applications, what you'll see is this check mark in each one of them, right? So I'm just gonna go to the general information here, and again, you'll see these are all very self-explanatory fields that are required. All of them are required. So for example, one of the questions that we get a lot is under this funding A7 funding request. So what amount should the applicant use? So this would be the amount of the total project. So if you have a multi-year project, it would be the total amount of that multi-year project. So not just the 1-year cost or initial cost or anything like that, should be the total amount that's being requested. And so just kind of keep that in mind. Again, more of an idea of when you believe the project is going to start, when it's going to end. This is the section where it gets a little bit tricky when it comes to the application. So we talked about some of these. Unfortunately, we can't say, because we're using the same application portal for everything. We can't say, if you're applying as a non-for-profit, we're going to make these unavailable. So you will see these available to you, but as a reminder, premium pay, revenue replacement, these are items that only the direct recipients qualify for. So non-for-profit sub-recipients don't qualify for some of these funding. So just keep in mind about that. And then you'll see that there's a note here. So if you selected a category for any of these, so for example, affordable housing, that means that there'll be additional information that'll be required, and it tells you which section to go to. Descriptions and all that, those are all very self-explanatory. This is the other question that we get a lot. So we are looking at a multi-year. We have kind of, the idea behind this is so that we can appropriately budget and allocate these funds, and we know we're not approving more than what we got. So that way we get a plan on again, what expense is going to be used in what fiscal year. There is a requirement to attach a budget template. And so the way that we have it here is personnel, contracts, commodities, and capital. So we're talking about the different budget categories that we use at the county level. So when you download the template, it's an Excel spreadsheet. And the Excel spreadsheet has instructions. So it will tell you what do we mean by personnel expenses, what do we mean by contracts, and so forth. And then here you can break it down, and we're going to require applicants to fill these out and submit it to the county. Not at the initial application, but going forward, there'll be a request for these documents to be attached and sent back to the county. So you'll be able to download these, and you can add, it's editable, so you can edit whatever all these different fields are, and you can plug in the numbers depending on what year you're talking about. So again, the instructions are there, and then the documents is there. It's very highly customizable, so you can go through whatever, add whatever you need to. And that's really, those are the most frequently asked questions that we get out of the application. Everything else is very, very clear, we feel. And at the beginning, when you submit the application, there will be a lot of questions that we're getting is, when do we submit documents, and when do we sign agreements and all that. So that will be sort of step 2 after the application is received. As it goes through the process, we have the ability to see it and request documents back, and then make additional fills required if, depending on what category or what questions we have. So again, there'll be, one thing that I want to also mention is that if you have multiple people that you want to be aware of the application, you can definitely add users here, and they will, whenever we take action on the application, whether it's the consultants, whether it's the county, at the board level, we are going to update it to Neighborly, and there will be an automated email going back to whomever is an authorized user of the application. And this can be done on a per application basis. So if you have multiple applications going, you can have different users depending on what kind of, so if you have economic development and public works, for example, working together on something, but you don't want it to see updates about a certain application, you can do that. If you have other departments within your non-for-profit, same thing there. Not sure if there's any questions on the application.
I just have one question regarding the funding. It's not necessarily related to the application, but given that you are quoting some sort of like a rolling deadline process, is there a maximum on the request for any one particular nonprofit?
No.
Okay.
No. Intuitively, we may say, hey, that it makes sense, once we get some in, that we can't do all these $10 million requests, that we're gonna cap it at, 800,000, but we're not there yet. I mean, we need to measure what kind of interest and activity there's gonna be.
Any
Other good questions? Got more questions than I anticipated, but I really, really appreciate that. That helps us, it really does.
So, the best way to, again, the information that we're gonna be posted is gonna be on the county website. If you have any questions about the program or your application status or anything else, that's the email address to send it to. We have at least 3 people looking at it. We're a consultant on the Bronner Group, Pete and myself, we have all visibility over on these email accounts, so we're responding to them as they come. And then if that question is not very specific and we see it that it's coming very often, we just post it on the frequently asked questions. So I do recommend reviewing that frequently asked question document, so you can download it or print out. And again, the recording and the presentation itself will be made available on the Advanced McHenry County page.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
You're gonna get called on the show.
The meetings you're gonna have in a couple of weeks out, it's 2 other categories. Today's government nonprofit, same as tonight. What's the approach for the upcoming one, and are there any connection nonprofits at all, or is that separate?
There's not, the presentations are only gonna be slightly different.
Yeah.
And the other focus is gonna be more on workforce, business.
Go ahead.
Do you allow indirect costs? It didn't look like there was any spot for indirect costs. I didn't know if there was any for that.
So indirect cost is allowed. It will be under a little bit more of a scrutiny when it comes to what qualifies, and if you are, like how you're documenting that might be, it is gonna be allowed, but it's just gonna be to what extent.
Thank you. Really, really looking forward to your ideas. Really appreciate your attendance today. Looking forward to more questions online. Give your email to Alicia if you haven't signed up, so we can blast this out to everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice job, guys. Thank you.